Welcome to another Pop Investments. We are so lucky tonight to have Rashonda back. Rashonda, the realtor. We are going to be talking to her, and she is going to give us a lot of tips. If you all have any questions, feel free to ask them, and hopefully, she will answer them. So, we're going to get started. And on my right side, I have Mrs.
Dasha Jackson. And like Aaron said, we have Rashonda here. We're talking about um, generational wealth reset. And with that, we're talking about real estate, how to acquire real estate, untraditional um, careers. You know, a lot of our children don't think about um, being a realtor or real estate is a lucrative career. So we're gonna ask first we're gonna ask Rashonda to give us a brief synopsis of her journey. How did she become a realtor? And then we're gonna ask them some questions about being a homeowner. And we'll go from there. So Rashonda, tell us, how did you start in the real estate game?
Okay, so good evening, everyone. I'm Rashonda Muldrow. I am the broker owner of the Real Estate Concierge in Albany, Georgia. And my journey in real estate would probably be kind of unconventional, as in I had no intentions of getting into real estate, but I'm here. So my journey was basically, it started 15 years ago. And I actually purchased my first home around a little bit before that time. And when I purchased my home, my realtor asked me, because I was able to navigate the process, I was staying on top of everything, turning in my paperwork, doing this, asking questions. And she asked me then, she was like, have you considered real estate? And I was like, no, I had just graduated college and got into my career real good, was working. And she was like, you should consider it. So I kind of brushed it off. I was like, no, I got a job. I had got my first job in management and was loving it. Well, thought I was. So progress on maybe 2 or 3 years later, my dad decided that he wanted to go into commercial development. And we were actually downtown, looking at some properties, and he wanted to buy the bus station at the time. And so he was going through that process, and he asked me then, he said, well, why don't you go ahead and, do the class, and I'll get the properties. And I was like, I had just graduated from grad school. I didn't want to learn anything else. Grad school took everything out of me. So I was done. So I had just moved back to Albany and was getting established working for his company. And he was like, go ahead and do it. So I took the class and actually enjoyed it. It was very informative. And him and I have had that agreement ever since, that he basically get the properties and I list them for him. So that's been our agreement for the last 15 years. So pretty much from there, I was still working part-time for him. And then I started honestly making more money in real estate than I was making on my job. And I promised myself, if I ever did not make that income that I was making on my job, then I would go back to my job. And it's like I've been chasing that same thing ever since. Not saying I didn't want to go back, but I low-key did not. So that was my motivation, just to keep going. So here we are 15 years later, and I love it.
And what's the name of your real estate company?
It's called the Real Estate Concierge. And people say, where do you get that from? Well, I like to travel. So when I go out of town, I call myself a hotel connoisseur. I like to stay at nice hotels. That's my treat. So when I go, I like to be able to call downstairs and call the concierge and say, hey, what's the best restaurant? What are the best shows, this and that. So I kind of took that concept in mind and said, I want to be that for real estate. I want to be that, one-stop shop, can hook you up with the best houses, get you the best deals, this and that, and apply that in real estate. So that's where the name came from.
Oh, wow. I like that.
Thanks. Only challenge is I got to get people to learn how to spell concierge, but that's okay. It's a learning process.
I don't know how to spell it. I'll be like, hey, Google.
Right. I have to remember sometime myself. I said, okay, spell it right now. It's yours.
Yes. Well, that's very unconventional and not the traditional track into
Right.
it, but I do get that. So, part of us doing this generational reset, I'm sorry, a lot of us are not homeowners, and when you think of buying a home, it's like many of us don't get the concept of that.
Mhm.
So, and then I know for some people, they think, having a home or buying a home is such a long, tedious process.
Right.
And, they'll rather say, no, I'll rather rent or whatever. So, what are some of the benefits of owning your home?
Okay. So I would say, first of all, the process teaches you. It teaches you discipline. It teaches you how to work. I mean, it's not a set process for everyone. Everyone's process is different. That's why I tell my clients when I'm doing buyers consultations with them, don't necessarily listen to the other family member who went through a process, because you don't know the intricate details that influence their process. Your process may be different. So everyone, of course, has to go the credit route. We have to have that. We have to have the income and the employment and all of that for a certain amount of years. But it gets down to different details because your credit report is different. Everyone's had a different path in life, so you can't compare yourself to the next person and the choices that they made for their credit. So some of the benefits with just out the gate, it's going to teach you how to be disciplined, how to stick with something. And then I tell my clients, it's going to be tough. Yes, you're going to be on an emotional roller coaster going up and down. And me, I'm going to be like this the whole time because I don't have that much emotion with it because I'm used to it. I know I can see the end goal, and that's my main focus. So I'm gonna ride the little ride with you while you stressing out, and I'm gonna be there to pat yourself on the shoulder. But we're gonna get to the end. We're gonna get to the closing table. That's my main thing. So that within itself, it teaches you, okay, if I do this, then I'm gonna have this, and you're gonna have the house for however long you want it. You go through this little part, and you're gonna get the house that you want. So that's something that I really encourage you to. Also, I ask my clients if they have kids, have your kids participate in the process. Even down to if we're buying a house, we got to save money. Have the kids involved because they know, okay, we can't buy this, McDonald's every day, or we can't buy these shoes right now. Engage them in the process and teach them, because this is going to teach them when they get ready to go out and do the same thing. I also ask that they bring them to the closing table, because a lot of our children don't even know what a closing is. Probably never been to an attorney's office, don't know what that process is like. They need to see it so they can say, well, my parents bought a house and they did this, and I want to do the same thing. So those are some of the benefits as well. And I think buying a home really stabilizes your financial, your financial existence in general. It just makes you make better financial decisions when you own a home, because if you mess up, ain't call the landlord, they're gonna evict you. You got to get out the house. You're gonna foreclose, which is not necessarily a good feeling. So it has and purchasing a home is gonna be one of the biggest assets that a person ever purchases, because people, they're not buying businesses and big buildings and stuff every day. They're just buying homes, which is like a big part of it would take up a lot of their income. So having something like that, it really helps you to make good financial decisions. And what we don't tap into enough is when you buy correctly, you buy a house and you build that equity, you can pull that equity out and buy investment properties. So every year, my clients, if you ever bought a home with me, you get a letter every year reminding you, okay, your house is worth this right now. Do you want to do renovations? Do you want to do investment property? And we teach people through that. We don't just sell them a house and you gone. You have us literally for life. Like my company, me and my agents, we are really your agents for life. We're constantly, because we believe in wealth management and wealth creation. So we want our clients to just, be financially stable and have those opportunities that they may not know about. We really try to get in front of them and teach them that.
Wow. And I mean, when we talk about breaking the generation gap, you're right as far as having kids sit at the closing table, go into the attorney office. These are things that a lot of Black people, some, but a lot don't do. So that's just eye opener. That's an eye opener.
Right.
Yeah. I've attended a homeowners seminar workshop, and it was, the little intricate details that, I heard. I was like, oh, never thought about that.
Right.
Some people think that I want to buy a house, I'm just going to go look for a house and then go to the bank and say, hey, this is the house I want. But there are so many steps into buying a home. Can you tell us a few of those steps? Now, one of the things I want to say is what I learned. Everyone thinks that, in order to buy a house, you got to have a credit score of 800. You don't.
You don't. So I normally do a little session on my page called the myths of purchasing a home, just so I can dispel some of the things that people think. And that's like the number one myth. You don't have to have an 800 credit score. We have gotten people approved with a 560 credit score. And there are some VA companies, the people with the VA loans, they can get a VA loan with a 560 score. Now, do I recommend a score that low? No, I do not, because there is some red tape that they have to go through if the score is lower. So I just tell my clients, go ahead and shoot for that 640. Try to have that 640, and that way you can eliminate all the red tape. Now, if time is of the essence, you're in a situation where you need to go ahead and buy, then it is possible we can work some things out, go with the fixed 560. And you just got to jump through a few more hoops, but you'll get there. So that's the first thing. The first step, what I tell clients, don't call an agent first, because the agent is going to say, no, we can't take you out without a pre-approval. So you want to make sure your stuff is done on your end. That first step, pull your credit. For some reason, we have a fear of knowing what's on that screen, or, you know, what's going to come up, but it's yours. It's your credit. You have, that's the first step, owning that, knowing that, okay, you know, I might have messed up. And I tell my clients when they call me for a buyer's consultation, no credit scares me. I've seen it all. The lowest credit score I ever seen was like a 380 something. I didn't even know we can go that low. But that person has been consistently working on their score, and they've gotten their score up. So no score scares me. Now, some agents it might, but it does not, because I know we can put some work into it and get it where it needs to be. So that's the first step. Pull the credit. Go ahead, pull the credit, own the credit, know it's yours. And I also have my clients to download one of the credit apps, whatever they want to use. Some people use Experian, some use Equifax. I even personally use Credit Karma, not for its accuracy, but because it gives me updates and send me little tips and say, oh, good job, you paid this down. I like the little motivation, you know, to know that I'm doing good or whatever. So I tell people, it took you a while to get into the credit status that you're in. So it might take you a little while to come out of it, and that's okay. But you have to have something that puts you in front, put your credit in front of you every day. And to me, that's what Credit Karma does. It's a daily reminder of, okay, I got to make smart decisions today. I might want them shoes, I might want a bag, but let me pay this debt down a little bit and get to where I need to be. So that's the first thing with the credit. The second thing is, before you even reach out to the bank, a realtor, anything, do your budget. Have a budget, because we got to know how much house can we afford. The bank is going to tell you what they will give you, but that does not mean the bank knows what you can actually truly afford, because some of us have different lifestyles. We like to travel. We like to eat out. We like to do, and the bank is not taking that kind of stuff into consideration. They're just looking at your numbers, what you bring home on your check, and what's reporting, the bills that's reporting your credit. But they leave out that discretionary spending, that extra spending that you might, you know, I get my nails done every week, I get my hair done every week. They don't take that. So those are true bills. That's why you have to do that budget and put all of that down and say, okay, after that, this is what's left. This is what I'm comfortable with paying every month. So to me, those are the two most important before you even reach out to a realtor or a loan officer, is to do your budget and to pull your credit. Once you do those things, then you're pretty much comfortable with going to the bank. And there are different banks with different programs. Like Navy Federal has a great home buyer program right now. They're 100% finance. Locally here in Albany, Renaissance Bank and Ameris Bank have mirrored those programs. They have 100% finance, meaning when I say 100% finance, that means you don't have to put any money down, like the typical 3.5% or 5%. With those programs, you don't have to put any money down. So that saves you money. Just say a house that costs, you know, just something small like $100,000, that's saving you $3,500 or $5,000 right there that you can put into your closing costs or something else. So it's good for they'll have your credit, but they're not going to take a 560 on those kind of programs. You got to have a decent score, which is really around the 640 mark for those programs.
Okay. Good information. I like that, because that was the number one thing for me, which you said was know how much house you can afford. Because, you know, we'll pop out here and get these $500,000 houses.
Yes. And have no business.
Yes.
It's okay to work your way up. Like some people have in their head, it's a 30-year mortgage. I got to stay there 30 years. No, you don't. You can stay there 2 years. Your house appreciates in value. Go ahead and sell it and use that money to move on to the next. Instead of, you know, oh, I'm stuck with this house for 30 years, because that's the mentality we've been taught. That's not necessarily true. You stay there for as long as the house is functional for you. If you outgrow the space, you build some equity, it's time to move on to the next.
And then also in that, you know, knowing how much house you can afford, it's also knowing how much for the upkeep as well.
Oh yeah, because you can't call the landlord when something go out, refrigerator or dishwasher, something, plumbing, something that's on you. So that's something that I teach my clients. You have to budget into your monthly. Go and include that in your monthly mortgage. Add a little cushion in there and say, okay, this is for repairs or something I might have to take care of.
Okay. And one of the other things that we don't think about, homeowners insurance.
Right.
A lot of people skip out, I'm just gonna buy a house. Can you talk about how that's either included in your mortgage or, how a homeowner would have to do that?
Right. So when I do my consultations, I ask the client, first of all, how much are you paying monthly for your rent? If they tell me $1,000, I say, are we comfortable there? Is that doable for you? And they say, yes, pretty much. And if they say no, I say, well, what do we want to go to? And then sometimes they'll go down a little bit more. But I do inform them, okay, whatever house you get, the lender is going to look at you a little strange. You say, I want to go from $1,000 to $2,000 a month payment. That's what we call payment shock. It's just like sticker shock when you see a car and the sticker is there. It's payment shock. It's nearly doubling what you've been paying, your expenses for the month. So that'll be a little difficult. So in that number, I make sure they know, okay, your taxes, you basically paying 5 bills in one on your mortgage, your taxes, your insurance, the principal, and the interest on the loan itself, plus the private mortgage insurance. Is 5 things in one note. So sometimes I say, okay, well, if I'm gonna pay that, then I can bump it up a little bit and go maybe to $1,200 instead of $1,000. That's still reasonable. But the loan company or your lender mortgage company do not trust you to make those payments annually or monthly on the insurance. Insurance every 6 months. I'm sorry, 6 months. So they do include that in their note and they hold it in escrow. So you'll see that word escrow on a lot of your statements, and they just build that escrow every 6 months and they pay it out to the insurance company every 6 months. They're getting it so they know for sure they got your tax money and they got your insurance. So no, you're not allowed to pay that alone. You have to have that included in your monthly mortgage.
Good information.
Except if you pay cash. If you pay cash, there isn't a lender involved. Of course, you're responsible for it yourself.
Okay. We're going to get to that. We can pay cash for a house.
Okay, yes, let's get it.
All right. So you pretty much just answered my previous question. If people wanted to buy a house, what advice? You've covered all of that. When looking at a house, what are some of the things that homeowners should look at as far as things to stay away from?
So this is the part that's the most difficult part as a realtor. To me, one of the most difficult parts of my job is it's hard once you get a client that falls in love with the house. I'm a more practical person. That's my personality. So yes, I see all the bells and the whistles, but I want to know, is this property going to be functional for my family? So I'm the realtor that when you're my client, we sit down and I have you to write down, and you're writing it down so you can see what you say you want in a house, everything. So when we get to this house, if you told me I need a garage or I need a den or I need that 3rd, 4th bedroom, if we get to a house or if you ask me about a house that does not have those things, I'm the realtor to tap you on the shoulder and say, wait now, you said you need X, Y, and Z, because I'm concerned about functionality. The house needs to be functional for your family because you're going to be living there, and you're paying all this money. So it's difficult to, you have these houses that, the nice granite and they've done all these nice renovations and really know how to capture the buyer, because the bathrooms and kitchens is really what sells the house. So if they make them fall in love, they forget that they told me we need a 4 and this house is a 3. So when you're shopping, have that list. You got to have that list of things that you like. I call them your non-negotiables. I got to have this to make it fully functional for my family. And then make sure your realtor is keeping you accountable. Basically, that's what it comes down to. And I like to have a buying buddy, because sometimes, we get emotionally attached to things and we kind of forget, what we said or whatever. So that buying buddy will basically hold you accountable for that. And I strongly suggest that you do your research about a neighborhood. We as realtors have information or links that we can share. You know, registered sex offenders are everywhere, not in just the prestigious neighborhoods, not in just the lowest neighborhoods, but they're everywhere. So if you have kids, that's the kind of stuff that you need to research. See who's living next door to you. You know, they have to be registered anyway. So you want to know that kind of stuff moving forward, just for the safety of your kids. You know, okay, who lives 2 houses down? So when my kids walking past that, going to the bus stop every morning, you know, so and so, you know, live there, that kind of stuff. And that's something that we overlook.
Yes.
So those are just a few things that I tell my clients, you know, to be aware of.
I think the sex offender thing, I wouldn't even think about that, but you're certainly right, because there are registered sex offenders that are living in neighborhoods, like you say, whether they're small or big.
Right. And it's in our contracts. A lot of people don't read our contracts word for word, but it's actually in our contracts to say that.
Okay. Let's see. We've covered that, you know. You've given us our tips. Now, let's say we want to change this up.
Okay.
I want to do what you're doing.
Oh.
So, you know, if I come to you and say, hey, Rashonda, I want to get in on this because it seems fun, easy, and I'm helping people.
Right. I want to make money.
Yes. How do I get into the real estate game?
So real estate is, I would say, it is something that I would do if I did not get paid. I would do it now. Now, I don't have it like that. Disclaimer. I got to get paid. But I'm just saying the joy that I have in helping others, you know, succeed financially, build wealth, and, you know, realize their dream of home ownership, it really outweighs, you know, anything that I've ever done before. And I really enjoy it. And I try to just, you know, if I see a person that has that knack, or I'm good at identifying talent. And if I see that they have that, I will approach them and say, hey, have you ever, just like somebody did me, you know, have you ever considered real estate? And to do what I do is really, you got to have a heart for people. That's number one, because buyers change their mind. You know, buyers change their mind. They get aggravated, they get upset, and they might quit in the process halfway through. And here you are trying to, you know, make a sale and get done with the process. Our typical process is 30 days. I've had people to quit on the day of closing and decide, you know, this is not for me. And that's fine. That's their prerogative. They can do that. But you have to have the heart for people, because it can get, you know, on the ups and downs, the ins and outs of the business, it can get discouraging. I really do say HGTV glamorizes our career. It really does. It glamorizes our career, but real estate is one of the hardest businesses I've ever worked. And I've worked in several industries, but it is one of the hardest because of the uncertainty, or because it's not a cookie cutter step-by-step process for everyone. You literally, like I tell people, I manage fires every day, and I just figure out what fire is the hottest, which one is going to burn everything down the quickest, and that's the one that gets my attention. It's never like the same day in this business, because all my clients have a different set of needs. At any given time, I'm managing anywhere from 8 to 10 clients just on a slow month. I'm managing anywhere from 8 to 10 clients, and meaning either they're just signing, or they're halfway through the process, or they're almost close to the end. That's at any given time. So that part of it, you have to have a heart for people, because you over here stressing out about this one that's about to close, but you got a brand new one who just started, and you got to have that same enthusiasm for them, and, you know, encourage them through the process. You can't let them know what the fire burning over here. You know, you can't discourage them with that. You got to be as enthusiastic. So that's where the zeal for people and helping people comes from. You have to have that in the business. Now, just as hard as the business is, it's just as lucrative. And it is to me, it's excellent part-time money if you decide to do it as a part-time career. But the caveat is, you are never part-time in this business. We call it dual career. Because if you're at your job, your main job, and you do real estate on the side, and somebody calls your phone, they don't know, number one, you're at your job, and they don't care. They want the information about, you know, whatever property they're calling about. They want to set an appointment. They need to meet with you. They don't care about the other stuff you got going on. So that's why I tell people, you can't tell somebody, oh, I'm on my job right now, I'll call you back. That's not how they set up. You'll lose clients like that. They want you, and they want you right now. So that's where you have to have systems in place to be able to manage that. And I would say for my first 3 years in business, I did have to manage that. I was on my lunch break showing houses. If I had my hour lunch break, I'll go show 2 or 3 properties, come right back to work, and then miss a beat. So you have to have that drive and motivation, because you have to keep up with the market. The market is always changing. Clients are always, either onboarding or you're closing them out. So I tell agents, if you sit in your office, agents who sit in the office aren't making money. We don't make money sitting in the office. The only time you should be in the office is you delivering some paperwork, and we don't even have to do that anymore, or you picking up a check. You really have to get out there and promote yourself. And me, I'm a very introverted people, believe it or not. I have an introverted personality, but when it's time to be Rashonda the realtor, I have to put all that to the side. You're not Shonda right now. You Rashonda the realtor. This is how you making money, and I have to avail myself to people. So, it's a great business to be a part of. It's something that is always evolving and changing, and it's forever learning. Like, you can't, even with being in the business 15 years, I still haven't learned everything. And I sit under mentors just so I can learn the stuff that I have not learned, because I want to be able to pass that on to my agents who are still in year 1 through 5. And I want to make sure they have the knowledge that I didn't have. I'm all about putting my agents on first base. I don't want them to start in the dugout like I did. I want them to experience success faster. So that's something that if you become a member of the Real Estate Concierge, then that's something that I really instill into my agents.
And you're helping a lot of people actually become real estate agents,
right,
aren't you?
Yeah.
And I think that is so great, because we talked about I'm sorry, you all. Let's see. Sorry, y'all. My brother's calling me. I wasn't expecting that. So sorry, you all. Let's see if I can show my face again. I'm gonna remove myself.
She's gonna come
She'll
back.
be back.
And she is.
Yeah. My brother messed up the live screen. I know you all can't see me. But you're helping a lot of people, which is great, because I'm a teacher, and I know there are quite a few teachers that are looking for career changes, or in addition to teaching, they're looking for other, an additional income. So I'm just grateful, to see that you're helping so many, and the fact that you are helping younger students as well, because I know you and Carla have that connection. What's your youngest person who's in real estate?
So right now she's a junior at Albany State currently, and she's currently acting as my intern. In the process, she did finish and get her real estate license. And so it's exciting. Like, she just had her 3rd closing in, I would say 3 or 4 months. So I'm like, okay, you killing it, and I'm so proud of her. She has her mother back home in Atlanta sold real estate. So that's where her background. She's seen it. She's been exposed to it. And that was something that really encouraged me when I hired her. I was like, okay, you got a little taste of it, so you know what it's like. So she literally has taken that and ran with it. So as far as age, the youngest you can be is 18. You have to have a degree. You have to have a high school diploma in order to apply for your license. So that's the youngest we can take. 18. You have to be 18 when you take the state exam. So, but yeah, I think it's great for a college student. However, I do encourage my college students, don't quit school just because you sell real estate. Like, you still want to have this as a plan B. So I encourage her consistently. You can do both. You can be in college, you can do it, and you can still sell houses. Even though your classmates aren't the one that are buying, you can still handle yourself in a professional manner and be able to sell houses. So yeah, that's the youngest we have for right now.
Oh, wow. And I say that because I teach students, and I do have some amazing students who I know would be very good real estate agents. Like this young generation, the ones that are on point, and I'm sorry y'all can't see me, the ones that are on point are on point.
Right.
And I just think about some of these students that don't know what they want to do, but they're smart as I don't know what when it comes to grades and communicating with people. Just think that's a great avenue for some people. But I did see, I was watching a real estate video on YouTube, and she mentioned how it's not, a lot of people say they're in it for the money, but there is a lot of hard work, which you mentioned. And she also talked about the contracts being legal documents. And that's what a lot of people don't understand.
Right. So our industry is one of the highest regulated industries in the country. Like we literally, the government is like on us. So that's why we have to make sure our errors and omissions insurance is up to date. We have to make sure our continuing education, like specifically in Georgia Real Estate Commission is like very, like out of all the commissions in all the states, it's known to be like one of the most strict, or if I'm saying that right, they really make sure that their professionals who are working in this industry are on top of their stuff. They're not going to just let you out here be in these streets doing whatever. And they have a lot of investigators going around, researching complaints. If somebody's, saying somebody's doing something illegal, they've honestly caught a lot of people who have started practicing real estate and don't have license. We get a whole report every month. We get a report of those who are, you have people who basically negotiating deals and they're not licensed to do so. So they're cracking down on even those people who are not supposed to be doing real estate. They're cracking down on those as well. There you are. We see you now.
And you said something, Rashonda, that listening to TikTok story times. I've heard where this lady was, it's an attorney that I follow. She's a divorce attorney.
Okay.
Her client is the wife, and the husband, they were selling the house because of the divorce. The husband and the realtor were dating, and she called and reported it, and they took her license.
Yeah.
So they don't understand, and this wasn't in Georgia. They don't understand, being a realtor, there are some things you cannot do.
Yeah, that's conflict of interest. Yeah, it really is. And see, that's the thing. That's the part of HGTV they don't show you that. So that's why even when I'm doing my sales meetings, I'm training my agents, we talk about scenarios like that. What if, or what would you do if, just so I can kind of hear what their responses will be. So if I need to correct the action right there on the spot, I can do that and let them know, okay, well, maybe not do this, but consider this. Because literally, and I think one of the questions we talked about was the difference between a salesperson and broker. Salesperson is a person who just goes to the real estate commission, applies for their license, fresh out of taking the exam, and they have their license. That's a licensed salesperson. Now, you become a realtor by joining the Association of Realtors, National Georgia Association, or even your local association. That's how you get the designation of a realtor, something like this. And this is our logo. So technically, if you see someone with this, they have gone through that extra step of code of ethics, taking the laws and all that kind of stuff. You're just taking an extra step. Now, you can still be a licensed agent and sell real estate, but if you're not a realtor, that means you don't have that extra code of ethics training. So that's the layer on top of that. Now, the next layer, which I call getting your master's degree in real estate, it's kind of like being the broker. You have to have your license for at least 3 years actively practicing in order to sit for the broker's exam. And then we have two types of brokers. You have a managing broker, which is more than likely the owner of the company. That's who everything falls under. That's if they got like me, I have 9 agents assigned to my broker license, meaning my agents, if they do something, they're not gonna, Georgia Real Estate Commission is not gonna go to that agent and say, Miss Dasha, you did this today. No, they come into Rashonda, your broker, and say, okay, you need to get that straight. It's your license that's on the line. So that's the difference in the broker. The broker is responsible. And when you take your state exam for your test, they won't ever just give you your license in your hand. They ask you, okay, what broker do you want to hold your license? If you don't have anyone on that day, they're going to take those licenses back and hold them until you decide, because they want that broker to be responsible for all your actions. The second broker is an associate broker. So associate broker is a person who's done the 3 years, they take the broker exam and they become a broker, but they don't necessarily want to manage. They just want to have that they just want their master's degree, but they don't want the ownership or the management side. So I like to encourage all my agents to pursue that, because there is an extra layer of education that goes with the broker's license. And I like for my agents to I like for them to have a master's degree in real estate instead of just the bachelor's. So that's the difference. I do push my agents to go ahead and get your broker's license, so you can kind of see what I have to deal with and be more informed about the business itself. So those are the differences in the types of licenses.
And I think with being a broker, I look at it as you have all or extra education to make the process easier for your clients, so you can tell them from beginning to end what the big picture is supposed to be.
Right. That extra education does help, and it kind of helps to navigate, because I'm able to see further than what my client's situation is. I can kind of predict stuff that's going to happen, and it helps me to head it off ahead of time, so that my clients can, and like when they said, "Ooh, I didn't," my process was just so easy. I was like, yeah, because I did all this and that before. So my clients didn't have to see all that, and that's a part of the service that we provide. I don't want my clients to know that, we over here drowning, our lender is telling us no, or, the house has got this and that. I try to resolve all of that so they can just focus on getting to the closing table. Whatever paperwork they're supposed to be, you focus on that. Let me handle everything else.
You are so thorough.
Uh-oh.
And I like that, because some people, they don't ask those questions, and they think,
don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know to ask.
And just with you being thorough about just anything, it's like, oh, that clicks to me now. And it makes it easier for some people to say, hey, I want to do this. And some people, believe it or not, some people don't want to be homeowners. And a lot of people don't get that. It's like, why don't you buy a house? Why? Because of the responsibility that comes with owning a home.
Right. Homeownership is not for everyone. And I tell people, I'm not offended if a person tells me they don't want to own a home. They know, at least they know themselves. They know, instead of trying to get into it and forcing it, they know that that's a big responsibility more than they want to take on. And that's fine. I don't want to force that on anyone. However, we look at the fact that, that's why when you're applying for a loan, they ask for tenant verification, or rental verification, I should say. Good renters make good homeowners. If you're a good renter, you're consistent, you take care of the property, more than likely that'll translate to you being a good homeowner. But if you're in there telling folks stuff up, they gotta always call and do this and and you later, then probably not. Homeownership should never, at least not in the present time, be on your list of things to do, because that means we got some things we need to work on, and it's just not your thing, and that's okay. That is perfectly okay.
Okay. Now, homeowners that are looking, I got a house, I'm outgrowing this house, and I want more house. How will we do that, and should we do that?
So, again, that goes back to functionality. Is the house still functional for you and your family and your family's needs? When I first started in my business, I had a lot of single female clients starting off. Like my first 5 years, that was like my client, like probably 80% of my business. And what happened, they started getting booed up, getting gay, got a little boo, this and that. And next thing you know, they texted me or called me and said, hey, I got a baby on the way, or shoot, we got 2 kids, or he got kids, and we're merging families. And those type life changes require that you move up, move to the next thing. So I tell people, stay in your house as long as it's functional. But if it's no longer functional and no longer serves you, then maybe consider a renovation, which can be kind of costly. And if it's too costly, just go ahead and consider getting a new home. So that goes back to, just because you signed a 30-year mortgage does not mean you have to stay there 30 years. People buy and sell all the time. So I'm all about functionality. If the house is no longer functional, go ahead and move to the next step. Go ahead, because houses appreciate in value. They don't ever, well, as far as I know, go down in value. So you will have some type of equity because you are paying down that principal every month. You will have some type of equity. May not be as much that you want, but you paid down some of the principal and created equity in that property, so you can cash in on that and sell your house and go on to the next.
Now, you know where we are. We can get much more house for our money here than we can in other places.
That's correct.
A lot of people think that they should get the same house for the same amount of money, and don't understand what goes into that. Because when you get into these larger cities, like let's say New York, and New York, you can get maybe a studio apartment for $200,000 versus here you could get 3-4 bedroom house for that amount. So when it comes to renting and home ownership in those instances, what advice would you give someone? And I keep thinking about what my pastor said, you got to count the cost. But in New York, I mean, a 10 by 10 studio could be a house.
Right. So you have to consider, like, in those cities, even though the houses and stuff cost what it costs, they do have higher salaries there. So it's kind of proportionate. The salaries here are much different, I would say. And the salaries are proportionate to the cost of living, basically. So what we're seeing now in this market, ever since the pandemic, a lot of the people who live up north now, or have in the past 2 to 3 years, they are cashing in, selling their houses that you're talking about, that 10 by 10 and all of that, their loss in the big city. They're cashing in on the equity and coming down here and buying up these, $50,000, $100,000, because that ain't no money compared to what they made off their sales. So we're seeing a lot of those people come down. It's like the Great Migration, they're calling it. They come down, purchase, and they're now landlords over several different properties because they pulled the equity again from up there, and they're getting more bang for their buck down here. So we've seen that a lot lately. I would say in the last 2 to 3 years, we've seen that a lot lately. So it's like,
so
what is people? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No. I was just going to ask, so what
calls all the time, Arizona, California, I want to buy a house cash. Okay, come on. You say cash, like tomorrow, you ready? Like you need to go do the video. Like, come on, let's go. So and they do have liquid cash and that's because they've sold the properties in those bigger areas.
I have a question. Do you all have a lot of people coming from Albany, coming back to Albany? Because I know Todd, she put it on his Facebook page about how the cost of living is higher. It's higher here in McDonough from when I first moved here. So are people migrating back south because of that?
I think that has a lot in the inflation of things. I think that has a lot to do with it. Maybe not forever, but for the time being, so that they can get a handle on things. And it makes good economic sense for right now. Home is probably, when I say home, Albany is probably cheaper than most places right now. So, they are. I have seen the influx of people that are doing it, and it might be more of a temporary situation until things in the economy kind of become a little more predictable. Because right now they're kind of all over the place.
What's the average home price in Albany?
Right now, it's about 170, 180-ish range. Okay. And when I say Albany, they consider the Lee County area as well.
That would make sense because the homes that they're building up here are 300,000. They're building some big homes, and
Yeah.
I always say people can live in smaller homes.
Yeah. And then we're starting to see a lot of the multi-generational homes, meaning people are moving their parents in, or either the kids are coming back after graduating. They're not necessarily moving away. So you might have that extra bonus room in the back, or, you know, a studio added on or something like that to accommodate that difference in the family.
Okay, and then I have a question too, about the tiny homes. Okay, so I heard that when you try to purchase a tiny home, there's a lot when it comes to zoning and taxes on it, and it's very expensive to even get a lot to put a tiny home on, or even start a community. Is that true?
So what I've seen, well, I've worked with this group. It's called Micro Life in Atlanta, and they're kind of in like the Decatur area, and they're kind of like the I guess the prototype for the tiny home community. And the guy that is over it, he and I, you know, I email him quite often, and he was basically telling me it was difficult at first because you have to get the infrastructure in. But what he was able to do is go in and have those meetings with the city council and just get everybody on board and say, listen, this is what we're trying to do. You know, we need this from the sewer department. We need this from, you know, planning and zoning. You have to get everybody on board to approve that. And the problem is it's new, and our governments, you know, they're behind the times. They don't necessarily like new. They like what they've been doing. So when you bring the tiny home thing into play, there are concerns with the zoning, the building requirements. But I love the tiny home thing. I think as long as it's done in a tiny home community and there are similar homes around it like it, then I think it's a great thing. I think it helps with, you know, because everybody can't afford what we call a McMansion. Everybody can't afford that. So you give people what they can afford, and they will take care of it. And that particular community I've seen over in Decatur, outside of Decatur, it's a beautiful little community. I mean, you have doctors that live over there, nurses, you know, a lot of traveling nurses, and it's just enough space for them. You know, they're not trying to have, you know, a whole family of 5 living in a 500 square foot, you know, building. It's just for them, and those people take care of it and they love it. So I'm a proponent. I mean, I'm totally for the tiny home community. I just think it has to be done in its own space, so you don't have you know, you're not trying to evaluate a 2,000 square foot house right next door to it. They all need to be in the same kind of space.
Okay. Thank you.
And that was going to be my question, Erin, about the tiny homes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I got ahead of you.
Yeah. So that was all my questions that I have for you tonight, Rashonda. Is there anything that we missed that we should talk about or mention when it comes to home ownership?
I want to go back to about being a real estate agent part. The biggest thing, or the biggest barrier I see when new agents get into the business that they have, was 2. The easiest one I would say is, number one, getting the business. A lot of agents ask me, how did you get your business? What I did coming into the business, I worked with my broker at the time. She was a listing broker for foreclosure properties. So since she just wanted to list, she didn't want to work with buyers. So I partnered with her, and, you know, every new listing she got, when she got the calls, I would field those calls for her. I would call the buyers back if they called and said they were interested, and whether they were ready or not, I work with those clients. And I find that getting into real estate, when agents are just getting in, they don't know how to build a pipeline. They don't know that the person that calls you right now may not be ready right now today, but that might be your buyer this time next year. You just have to nurture that client, that buyer. So that's one of the first hurdles, that it's not an instant thing in the business. You're not going to get a check immediately. You know, more than likely it's going to take you the first 30 to 60 days before you get a check. And that leads to my next thing. Being a real estate agent, we're paid on commission only. That transition in your mind from coming from a job that you're getting paid every month or getting paid every 2 weeks is challenging at first, because you're looking like, wait a minute, where my check? You know, it's Friday, where the check? And that doesn't happen if you didn't do the work leading to that. So I always challenge. That's why and I keep referring back what I do to at my company. That's all I know. But at the real estate concierge, once you get into the business, the first 6 weeks you have to meet with me probably every week or every other week, just so we can make that transition. Because those little things like that, I have to keep you aware of, saying, okay, this is why you got to keep making calls. This is why you got to stay active on social media. This is why you got to put your name out there, because you might be 3 or 4 months down the road and you hadn't had a closing, and you're looking at me like, what am I doing? We didn't put in the work in the time leading up to that. So it is a commission-based industry. You only get paid once you sell, and that can be challenging, because it was challenging for me at first. I was getting paid every 2 weeks. And I was like, what you mean I'm not going to get a check this week? Like, legit. And so once I had that reality set in, it changed how I looked at the business, and it just trying to push my motivation even further.
One of the things she mentioned, Rashonda, was the fact that there are percentages that come out when you get paid. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the company has bills. So the company is able to make payments on the income because of the splits. So there are, different brokers, they have different splits. So it just depends on who you decide to go with. So that's something, if you're interested in a business, that's one of the questions you want to ask. If there is a certain percentage, then what comes with that? What is the benefit, of me paying you this split every month or every time I have a closing? What am I getting from it? Am I getting advertising? Am I getting training? Or like with me, you get one-on-one coaching. So that's a part of your split.
Now, you were talking about commission. People think they're going to get a lot of money. What is the average percent for commission?
Well, we're not allowed to talk about commission per se as far as the deal. That's like a FTC thing. It's a violation. But as far as your splits with your company, of course, some of them go as low as 50-50, meaning that what you're actually making your check, or all the way up to 90-10. And you have some companies that don't even take a split off of their agents. I don't know how they do it, but they're able to do that. But of course, there is an exchange. If you're not getting, if you're not paying the company any of the split, then it's got to be something else that they're taking away because you're not paying the split. So I just tell people to weigh your options. A brand new agent in the business should expect to pay a higher split to the company because you're not experienced yet, and your broker has to teach you the business. So the less experience you have, the more split you're going to have to pay the company. That's the rule of thumb.
I feel like I've been in class with Rashonda.
Okay. Come on, get your real estate license.
That's a thought, Rashonda. That is a thought.
I will text you the link for your new agent consultation. I will.
Yes.
I'll text it to you.
And that's what, and please, Rashonda, do you mind sharing it just in case somebody who's watching this who might want to? I mean, shoot, this summer, you never know. I might, but will you please put that? And I think this is great because a lot of people, I always like to look at the pros and cons. So like I look at videos, I look at real estate, I looked at what is it? Flight attendant. I was like, oh my goodness, they have to do all that. I think sometimes we think, we look at careers and they look glamorous and we think they're easy. And then you start researching them and you're like, wait, I don't know about that. So just being able to put in the research, and because we have platforms like this and Google, it's easy to really understand and talk to people.
Right. So that's why and I'm probably the most, I don't know the word I want to use, but I'm going to give it to you real. Like because I didn't have that getting into the business. No one told me like the ins and the outs. So I try to tell it, I don't mind being upfront and honest, because people don't realize it's a big investment to get into this business. Like the barriers of entry are really high because it's expensive. I know out the gate, you're going to spend probably just $2,000 just to really get going. And the average person probably don't have that access just, laying around and just, invest in a business right away. So I try to tell people before up front, this is what you're going to have to pay. make sure you can do this. But I also tell them one deal will restore all the money that you paid in the beginning. So if you get into the business, get started, get your feet wet, go do the trainings, do the meetings, have your coaching calls, you literally have your first deal in the first 60 days, you'll get all that money back in one deal. Yeah, you can. You can get all of it back in one deal. So I just sent it to Facebook Messenger, my link. To schedule any kind of appointments. So you can put it in the chat if you want.
I'll put it in the chat. I surely will. Because like I said, I just thank you so much. You're my, listen, I know I'm 42 and I'm not going to ask you your age, but you're my up under 45 list right now. Like,
okay.
Right there, like one of the influencers up under 45. Like, we got to give props to our people, and that is so good. Like, to know you, I'm like, dang, she's doing some amazing things. Right. And just for you to share your knowledge and to be so transparent with us is amazing. We thank you.
Yeah, and that comes from, like I tell people, I can give people the blueprint, literally tell them step by step what I do. And they're going to still come up with a different result. That's why I'm not intimidated. I'm not like you have some agents. Ooh, don't tell them. I don't care. Like we don't have the same characteristics or personality or whatever. Everybody gonna put their own thing on it and do it their own way. So I don't mind sharing. I'm not threatened by it. And you have to, as a broker, you have to be like that, because I remember when I was Rashonda the Real, and I don't even know why that's on the screen, but when I started, I was Rashonda the Realtor, but now I've stepped back. I push my agents up now. I want them to, I've had it for 15 years. I'm good. I'm on to the next part of the business, which is really building it. I'm not so focused on Rashonda the Realtor. No, that's not me anymore.
You're the mogul, girl. You're the mogul.
Right. And I like that because, most people don't think like that. It's like, let me get it. I want all the money. I want it. But to sit back and push other people, you don't get that often, especially in our sisterhood.
Right. That's the thing. It's I don't know why our culture is like that. Like, I just want to, I'd rather have, I don't know what the saying is, but it's something to the effect of I want to have the efforts of 1% of the efforts of 100 people than, basically one person doing everything, but you want to have, and that's what I want. If I can just get the efforts of, basically duplicate myself to all these different people, just get 1% of that effort. Look how much further I can reach, how many more families, we can help, instead of me trying to do everything, being stressed out and, oh my God, want to quit, I don't work that hard. It's 15. I put in my time.
Love that. I love that.
Yes.
And you'll be blessed, and you are blessed for that.
Yes.
And I've noticed that a lot of people that are blessed, they're the ones that are sharing with others.
Right. Right. That's what it's about.
Yeah. Well, this is Daisha. Do you have anything else you want to ask before we?
No, Rashonda has been very thorough with us tonight. Yes.
So, Rashonda, would you like to just anything else you would like to give, a word of inspiration to anyone?
Well, I want to say, I guess, to my homeowners or future homeowners, the process may be intimidating, but with the right agent, you will succeed in the process. Go ahead and take that step. Don't feel like, oh, I don't make enough money right now. Oh, my credit score is not this and that. If homeownership is something you want to do it, because it's going to help not only in your current life, but it's going to help you for generations, helping your family for generations to come. The fact that you made that decision that I'm going to be a homeowner, I'm going to own something, I'm going to own real estate, something tangible that's not going to depreciate, and how you can pass that on. So don't think so small-minded for right now. Think about what it can do for your family for generations to come. And don't get paralyzed by the fear of it. And I tell people, if you're a renter and you think, oh, I can't call the land. So what? You are your own landlord right now. You own your property. Just take care of it like you would take care of a car. Don't get paralyzed with the fear of, I'm not going to be able to fix this. I'm not going to be able to fix that. No, that's not the case. You can pull out if it's a major repair, just pull out the equity in your home, get it done, and keep moving. But don't let that fear keep you in the place where you are. Now, some people do have to rent because of their situation, and that's okay. But if you feel like you would be a good homeowner, but you're letting fear paralyze you, step outside of that fear and pursue that, because it will benefit you for years to come.
We thank you so much,
Thank you.
Rashonda. You all, please share this out because this has been
Yes.
very informational. I know someone can benefit from it. We benefited from this. And so we're going to be sharing it out. And we thank you, Rashonda. Thank you so much. And we want to have you on again. I'm a person that I believe in let's work together as a community. So we thank you so much. All right, you all. So thank you all so much for watching. Please follow Rashonda, and then Rashonda, I'll put your information again. She's on this page. She's on Positive Princesses on and Possessive. You're on that page, but we'll make sure that you all follow her. Please follow her because she's amazing. She is up under that 45. She's up under my 45 list. All right, you all. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time.
All right, y'all. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.